Hey everyone, my name is Lucas Piazza. I'm a strength and conditioning student here at Liberty University. And today in this video, I'm gonna break down the force velocity curve. So our graph is gonna be a pretty standard graph. We have our y-axis and our x-axis. And along our y-axis, we're gonna have force that runs this way, and we're gonna have velocity, which runs this way. On the graph, we're going to see a line that looks kind of like this. It might not be completely perfect, but we can see that automatically that there's an inverse relationship. So at the top of our graph, we are going to have max strength followed by strength speed, which is followed by power, which lies pretty much in the middle of the graph here, followed by speed strength. And at the very bottom, we're gonna have velocity. So, like I mentioned earlier, on this graph, there's an inverse relationship. So that means as force increases, we're gonna see the velocity decrease. And when the velocity increases, we're going to see the force decrease. So next, we are going to break down all 5 of these categories, starting with max strength. So max strength is going to look like anything between 90 to 100% of an athlete's 1 RM. So for the sake of this video, we're just gonna use a 405-pound trap bar deadlift. So at 90 to 100%, we're looking at the 400s, upper 390s, and 380s. That's the weight we're gonna look for. We can also look at it as anything that is less than 0.4 to about 0.3 meters per second. So we get on that trap bar, we tie a tendo, a gym aware equipment to it, an OVR unit, and we pull it, and we see numbers that are in the 0.4 to 0.3s or lesser than those, we know that we're working maximum strength. So next is our strength speed category. So our strength speed category is going to be around 80 to 90% of our 1 rep max. So we used that 405 example earlier. We're still pushing pretty heavy weight, but it's gonna move a little bit quicker. So if we're looking at the meters per second measurement, we're gonna be looking at around 0.5 to about 0.75 meters per second. So like I mentioned earlier, right, that max strength, we're looking at 0.4 to 0.3 or anything less than that. This one, we're looking at between 0.5 and 0.75. So next on our chart, we have power. So power can really range anywhere from 30 to 80% of our 1 RM, or we can look at it as 0.75 to around 1 meters per second. So we gave that trap bar deadlift example earlier with the 405. We can be pushing much higher, so we can be pushing really those upper 300s, or we can focus to switch to the speed strength aspect as well and work lower in the upper 100s or the mid 200s as well. We can also look at the speed here. So this gives a very good indicator of how fast we're moving it, obviously, but we can also push it more towards the strength speed side of things or the speed strength side of things as well. So followed by power, we have speed strength. So the speed strength category is we're gonna be looking at anything from roughly 30 to 60% of our 1 RM, or we can look at this between 1 to 1.3 meters per second. So again, this is not quite the full-on velocity that we are gonna get to next, but we are kind of shying away now from that power and that max strength that we were talking about earlier This can help athletes move weight efficiently, but also very quickly, because this is moving pretty quickly as well. So finally, we have velocity. Velocity is really looking at anything under 30% of our 1RM, or we can look at it as anything above 1.3 meters per second. So at this point, the weight isn't very heavy, it's pretty low, but we're moving it super, super quickly, because we can see it's only at above 1.3 meters per second. That's moving really, really fast, and the weight's gonna be a lot lighter. So let's say we have an athlete that is very, very high on the force side of our chart, but pretty low on the velocity chart. And if velocity is what we want to improve, here's essentially how we can do it. We have a few weeks, let's just use 3 for example, and let's just say the weight on the bar is 225. And we're gonna stick with this trap bar example, right? Maybe this first week, they're going to lift 225 at, let's just say, 0.7 seconds as far as meters per second, right? So it's kind of in the middle there. We're gonna see it move not like super fast, but also not super slow either. It's gonna be putting us in that ballpark of the strength speed category. What we'll do next is we're gonna come back to our second week. We're gonna keep the weight the exact same, but we know that their velocity is increasing if we see the time go up. So let's say we see it increase from 0.7 to 0.8, right? That means they're getting faster in that movement. And week 3 here, let's say we see them at 225 again, and now maybe this time they're at 0.85 to 0.9 meters per second. We know at this point that they are increasing the velocity of that lift. Something to watch out for, especially working with younger athletes, is sometimes they just understand the movement pattern better. So if they're doing a trap bar deadlift, they could be moving it more efficiently. So maybe that's why these numbers are increasing. But if you're working with pretty experienced athletes, you can be pretty sure that who know what they're doing as well, that if you see these increases, you can be confident that the velocity is increasing as well. So now we're going to talk about increasing force in an athlete. So conversely to, or inversely of the velocity system, let's just stick with the 225 pound trap bar deadlift, right? We're gonna have week 1, week 2, and week 3. Again, we're gonna start with 225, and let's say this athlete moves it at, let's just say we're looking for 0.4, right? 0.4 meters per second. Now the next week, we're gonna try and shoot for a small increase. So maybe we go to 230, and if we can stay at 0.4 again, that means we can see the force increase, right? Because they've lifted the same amount of weight, the same speed, but now I've seen the weight increase as well. And now maybe we're at 235 on week 3, and we're still at 0.4 meters per second. We can be very sure that the weight is going up, right? So we see the force increase, and we're seeing the time stay the same. Same thing like I mentioned with velocity, working with younger or inexperienced athletes. This could be to just understand the technique better or the motor learning associated with the trap bar deadlift. But again, if you're working with experienced athletes, I would be very confident that these increases we see are going to be due to the result of an increase in force as well. So before I conclude today's video, I just want to cover a few quick things, and that is working with athletes, whether at the collegiate level, professional level, high school level, or younger. They're going through a lot of different things in life, a lot of different stressors, and so these numbers can be affected by what they're going through, right? If someone's dog died, girlfriend broke up with them, and they just failed a test, like we can see these numbers change, and it's not because our system isn't working. It could be because there's life circumstances. So especially as we're testing numbers here, let's make sure we're checking in on our athletes as well, because we don't know what's going on in their personal life. We don't want to believe that our program is wrong, when in reality it's that something's going on in that life of the athlete that they need to take care of, and we get the opportunity as coaches to step in and support them and love them no matter what's going on. So this system works, but also remember that athletes are people and things happen. And so if an athlete's numbers aren't increasing, we should be checking in. Like, are things all right at home? Are things all right in school? Did you get enough sleep last night? Have you drank enough water? Have you eaten today? This system works, but let's also make sure that our athletes are treated well as well.